Welcome to my educational series where you can improve your English proficiency and prepare for exams like TOEFL and IELTS. In this episode, we'll focus on an academic topic. You will hear talk followed by several questions. I recommend that you take some notes while listening because it will help you at the end of the conversation to answer all of the questions in the quiz correctly. So, let's get started.
All right, Space Cadets, buckle up. We're blasting off on another deep dive. And this time we're setting our sights on something pretty spectacular.
Yeah, you could say that.
I'm talking about the moon, Earth's very own cosmic companion. We've got these two excerpts here, jam-packed with lunar intel. And let me tell you, I was surprised by some of this stuff. Ready to uncover some secrets about our closest celestial neighbor?
Always ready.
Okay then, let's launch right into it. First off, the moon's orbit. I always kind of just assumed it was like a, perfect circle around Earth.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
But turns out it's not like that at all, right?
No, it's more of an elliptical path, kind of like an oval. So the distance between the moon and Earth is constantly changing.
And that's what causes like the tides and stuff, right?
Exactly. The gravitational pull from the moon tugs on the Earth's oceans, creating those bulges of water that we see as high tides.
See, this is why I love these deep dives.
Yeah.
Always learning something new. Now, here's a question that's always bugged me. Why do we only ever see one side of the moon? Is it like hiding something?
Well, not exactly hiding, but it is kind of locked in facing us. It's called synchronous rotation, meaning the moon spins on its axis at the same rate that it orbits the Earth. So it always keeps that same face pointed towards us.
Okay, but our sources mention something called libration. What's that all about?
So it's like a little wobble. The moon's orbit isn't perfectly stable and its axis is tilted, which means we actually get to see a bit more than just half over time. Like we can peek around the edges a little, about 18% more, in fact.
So it's not totally stuck then. All right, moving on to a topic that really blew my mind. Lunar seas. Like the Sea of Tranquility where Neil Armstrong landed?
Yes, a historic spot.
Always pictured like, vast oceans up there, but apparently I was totally wrong. Can you break this down for us?
Yeah, those names can be a bit misleading. These seas aren't actually bodies of water. They're vast plains of solidified lava, mostly basalt. Basically, think ancient volcanic eruptions that smoothed out huge areas of the lunar surface.
So no chance of a moon swim then. What about those brighter areas we see?
Those are the lunar highlands, mountainous regions composed of lighter materials like aluminum and calcium silicates. Think of them as the lunar mountain ranges, contrasting with those darker, smoother volcanic plains.
Gotcha. Now, this might sound like a silly question, but have you ever wondered if you could read by the light of a full moon?
Not silly at all. And the answer is you actually can.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's much dimmer than sunlight, of course, but a full moon is still bright enough to cast shadows and illuminate a page. Might not be the ideal reading lamp, but it'd work in a pinch.
I'll have to try that out sometime. Okay, let's talk lunar phases now. We all know the moon goes through like a whole cycle from new moon to full and everything in between. But how does that actually happen?
Think of it like a cosmic dance between the sun, Earth, and the moon. The moon doesn't produce its own light, it reflects sunlight. And as the moon orbits Earth, the angle at which the sunlight hits it changes from our perspective, creating those different phases we see.
So it's all about how much of the sunlit part we can see from Earth.
Exactly. When the sun, Earth, and moon are aligned, with Earth in the middle, that's when we get a full moon. We're seeing the entire illuminated face.
Makes sense.
And a new moon happens when the moon is between the sun and Earth. The sunlit side is facing away from us then, so the moon's pretty much invisible.
And then all those crescent and gibbous phases happen in between as the moon, moves along its orbit.
Precisely.
Speaking of orbits, I learned something interesting about lunar months. There's the sidereal month, which we already touched on.
Right. About 27.3 days for the moon to complete one orbit around Earth.
But there's also the synodic month, which is about 29.5 days. That's the time it takes to cycle through all the lunar phases from new moon back to new moon.
Yeah, the difference comes from the fact that Earth is also orbiting the sun, so the moon has to catch up a bit in its orbit to get back to the same position relative to both Earth and the sun.
So sidereal is about the actual orbit, and synodic is about the phases we observe.
Okay.
Now on to something a little more poetic, Earthshine. It's like Earth shining a flashlight back at the moon. Sunlight bouncing off our planet and illuminating the moon's dark side.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of everything in our solar system.
And when's the best time to see it?
It's most noticeable during the crescent phases, when the moon is just a thin sliver in the sky. If you look closely, you can often see that faint glow on the rest of the lunar disk.
Got to add that to my stargazing list.
Okay.
Last but not least, let's talk about two special full moons tied to Earth's seasons. First up, the harvest moon. What makes this one so special?
Well, the harvest moon is the full moon that occurs closest to the autumnal equinox, which marks the start of fall in the northern hemisphere. And what's really neat is that for several nights in a row, it rises shortly after sunset, providing this extended period of evening light.
So farmers could, keep working later thanks to the harvest moon.
Exactly. It was nature's way of giving them a little extra time to bring in the harvest.
Makes sense. And then there's the hunter's moon, right?
That's the full moon that follows the harvest moon. It also has a shorter than usual time between moonrises, providing more light in those early evening hours.
Was that one helpful for hunters then?
Traditionally, yes. The extra light would make it easier to track and hunt game in the evenings.
Wow, who knew the moon was so connected to our lives here on Earth? This deep dive has been truly illuminating. We've covered everything from the moon's elliptical orbit, its synchronous rotation, and those not-so-watery seas, to the dance of lunar phases, and even special full moons linked to our seasons.
It's amazing what you can learn from just 2 excerpts, right?
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, if we could rename features on the moon today, based on all we now know, what would we call them?
That's a great question. Makes you think.
Keep pondering that, Space Cadets. Thanks for joining us on this lunar adventure. Until next time, keep looking up.
See you next time.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have learned something new and useful, and see you in the next episode. Bye.